สวัสดีคุณผู้ชมนะคะผ่านทาง Facebook Fanpage กรุงเทพธุรกิจแล้วก็ YouTube กรุงเทพธุรกิจนะคะอยู่กับดิฉันนะคะปริมกุลชนิตากุลชรณอยุธยาในรายการ Deep Talk นะคะวันนี้อาจจะดูทางการสักนิดหนึ่งนะคะเพราะว่าในครั้งนี้เราได้รับเกียรตินะคะจากท่านเอกอัครราชทูตอังกฤษนะคะมิสเตอร์มาร์คกูติงนะคะมาสัมภาษณ์พิเศษเกี่ยวกับพระราชพิธีบรมราชาภิเษกของพระเจ้าชาร์ลส์ที่3ที่จะมีขึ้นในวันพรุ่งนี้นะคะซึ่งแน่นอนว่างานในครั้งนี้นี่นะคะถือว่าเป็นงานที่ยิ่งใหญ่มากๆแล้วก็ทั่วโลกจับตาแน่นอนนะคะและที่สำคัญค่ะก็ตั้งแต่รัชสมัยของสมเด็จพระนางเจ้าอลิซาเบธที่2เนี่ยนะคะก็ผ่านมากว่า70 ปีแล้วที่ไม่มีใครได้รับชมผ่านทางการถ่ายทอดสดครั้งนี้ก็ต้องบอกว่าเป็นอะไรที่น่าตื่นเต้นนะคะแล้วก็น่ารับชมมากๆเกี่ยวกับพระราชประเพณีนะคะที่สำคัญค่ะทีนี้คุณผู้ชมคะสำหรับคนที่สนใจเกี่ยวกับพระราชพิธีบรมราชาภิเษกของพระเจ้าชาร์ลส์ที่3นะคะก็ต้องบอกว่ามีหลายเหตุการณ์ที่จะเกิดขึ้นในวันนั้นเลยนะคะแล้วก็ผู้คนนับล้านเนี่ยทั่วสหราชอาณาจักรแล้วก็ทั่วโลกก็เฝ้ารอที่จะรับชมในครั้งนี้ด้วยจะมีการจัดพระราชพิธีขึ้นที่มหาวิหารเวสต์มินสเตอร์นะคะซึ่งในพระราชพิธีดังกล่าวนะคะสมเด็จพระเจ้าชาร์ลส์ที่3แห่งสหราชอาณาจักรและสมเด็จพระราชินีคามิลาจะทรงได้รับการสวมพระมหามงกุฎพร้อมกันโดยกษัตริย์พระองค์ใหม่นั้นถือเป็นพระเจ้าแผ่นดินอังกฤษลำดับที่40ที่ได้ประกอบพิธีราชาภิเษกในมหาวิหารเวสต์มินสเตอร์ใจกลางกรุงลอนดอนนับตั้งแต่ปี1066เป็นต้นมาก็เกือบ 1,000 ปีเลยล่ะค่ะซึ่งพิธีกรรมต่างๆก็จะมีขึ้นนะคะส่วนใหญ่ก็จะเป็นตามขนบประเพณีโบราณที่สืบทอดกันมาคือแทบจะไม่เปลี่ยนแปลงเลยแต่ว่าระยะเวลาในครั้งนี้เนี่ยเท่าที่อ่านกำหนดการดูก็จะสั้นกว่าครั้งที่แล้วนะคะจากครั้งที่แล้วประมาณ3 ชั่วโมงครั้งนี้ก็ชั่วโมงกว่าๆเท่านั้นเองนะคะซึ่งหมายกำหนดการก็จะมีแบบนี้ค่ะคุณผู้ชมก็คือว่าการเฉลิมฉลองอย่างเป็นทางการเนี่ยจะเริ่มขึ้นนะคะตั้งแต่เวลา 6 นาฬิกาค่ะด้วยการเคลื่อนขบวนเสด็จจากพระราชวังบักกิงแฮมไปยังมหาวิหารเวสต์มินสเตอร์นะคะในช่วงเวลาก่อน 11 โมงเล็กน้อยแต่ว่าจะเปิดพื้นที่เฝ้าชมขบวนเสด็จทั้งสองข้างทางให้ประชาชนได้จับจ้องกันตั้งแต่เวลาประมาณ 6 โมงเช้ากันเลยทีเดียวสำหรับคนที่มาก่อนก็จะได้เข้าถึงพื้นที่ริมถนนเดอะมอลล์แล้วก็ถนนไวท์ฮอลล์นะคะซึ่งเป็นเส้นทางที่ขบวนเสด็จจะเคลื่อนผ่านส่วนคนที่มาทีหลังเนี่ยอาจจะต้องไปอยู่ที่บริเวณเฝ้าชมขบวนเสด็จ2 ข้างทางแล้วนะคะก็ต้องต่อแถวกันไปจะได้รับการจัดสรรเพื่อชมการถ่ายทอดสดจากจอโทรทัศน์ขนาดใหญ่เลยในสวนสาธารณะไฮพาร์คกรีนพาร์คแล้วก็สวนหลวงเซนต์เจมส์นะคะซึ่งในพระราชพิธีบรมราชาภิเษกพระเจ้าชาร์ลส์ที่3นี้นะคะก็จากข้อมูลที่ Public นะคะหรือว่าเผยแพร่สาธารณะออกมาเนี่ยจะมีความแตกต่างนะคะจากพระราชพิธีบรมราชาภิเษกของ Queen Elizabeth ที่2อย่างมากเลยไม่ว่าจะเป็นขั้นตอนที่ลดลงนะคะหรือแม้กระทั่งจำนวนแขกที่ลดลงจากครั้งที่แล้วเนี่ย 8,000 ครั้งนี้เนี่ย 2,000 เหตุผลเป็นเพราะอะไรเนี่ยนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นในครั้งนี้ค่ะเราจะมาพูดคุยนะคะกับเอกอัครราชทูตอังกฤษประจำประเทศไทยนะคะ His Excellency Mr. Mark Gooding สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ Oh you can speak Thai
A bit of Thai, yes, I try.
Yeah, okay. It's been an honor to be here today to interview you about the coronation of King Charles III. And I think this is a very special occasion because King and Queen of Thailand, this is the first time to officially visit the UK. And I think people around the world are waiting for watching the broadcast on television. How about the coronation ceremony? Can you tell us the story?
Of course, yeah. I mean, this is a really exciting celebration for the UK and the wider world. This is our first coronation in the UK for 70 years. Our late Queen Elizabeth obviously died sadly last year. So this is for me, literally a once-in-a-lifetime event. It's the first time it's happened in my lifetime. And it's a real cause for celebration of the UK, our culture, our society, and our values, but also a very important moment for us to look ahead to the future positively. So the coronation, obviously we've got guests from around the world. I think nearly 200 countries will be represented with over 400 international VIPs, and we're absolutely delighted that His Majesty King Vajiralongkorn and Queen Suthida are able to attend, so we shall look forward to welcoming them. And there'll be events over the weekend. So the coronation itself, would it be useful if I described a little bit about what to expect?
Yeah.
Okay, well, on Saturday, 6th of May, the coronation will take place, and it's at Westminster Abbey. And this is the same venue that we've used for coronations in the UK since 1066.
1066.
So nearly 1,000 years, every coronation in the UK has taken place in Westminster Abbey, which is extraordinary. And King Charles III will be the 40th British monarch to be crowned in Westminster Abbey. So he's number 40 in that line. The activity will start on Saturday morning with the King and Queen Consort at Buckingham Palace. And the first thing that will happen is that they will go in a procession, a coronation procession, to Westminster Abbey, which is where the coronation will take place. And they will use the Diamond Jubilee State Coach, which is a coach and horses that was built actually in 2012 for the Queen's Diamond Jubilee, and that was built in Australia. So they will be transferred first of all to Westminster Abbey. And then the coronation ceremony itself will have a number of different stages. So the first thing that happens is what's called the recognition.
The recognition.
The recognition. So the Archbishop of Canterbury, who's leading the service, he will announce the king to the British public, so from Westminster Abbey. The second thing to happen is that the king takes an oath.
An oath.
He takes an oath, yes. And that oath is to uphold the law of the UK and the Church of England. And the third part is the anointing, it's called. And this is where the Archbishop of Canterbury anoints the king. It's the most religious part of the ceremony. So the Archbishop of Canterbury uses holy oil that's made in Jerusalem without using any animal products whatsoever. And this is a sort of religious part of the ceremony.
Yeah, that I heard that the anointing will not be allowed on broadcast, and why?
Well, this is the most sacred and religious part of the ceremony. So traditionally, this is seen as the moment that the monarch is in contact with God. Exactly. So it's never been. Obviously, actually, I think the coronation in 1953 was the first time we've ever had one televised. This is the second. But anyway, that part of it is behind a screen, so you won't be able to see it on television. But then the fourth part of the ceremony is called the investiture. And so this is the moment of coronation, if you like. So it will take place on a coronation chair, which has been used for 700 years. It's a wooden chair, a real sort of absolute emblem of coronations in the UK. And underneath that is the Stone of Destiny, which is a stone that's kept these days in Scotland and was basically used in the coronation of Scottish kings in the past. So that's the chair. You'll have the moment of coronation, which is when the king is crowned using St. Edward's crown, which is a magnificent holy gold crown. It's got over 400 gemstones on it, and it weighs 2 kilograms. So no one can wear it for very long.
Fantastic.
This is the one moment at which King Charles will wear St. Edward's crown. So that will be the moment of coronation when he becomes, when he's crowned king. And also in this part of the ceremony, that he is presented with a golden orb, which symbolises his moral authority. He's presented with a sceptre, which symbolises the justice and the rule of law in the UK. So that is all called the investiture. And after that, he is enthroned, meaning he takes his place on the throne. And there is also homage, where traditionally people would pay homage to the king. And this year there'll be more an invitation from the Archbishop of Canterbury for people to pay public homage and swear their allegiance to the king. So that's the ceremony in Westminster Abbey. And after that, both the king and the queen will take the gold state coach back to Buckingham Palace, which is this is actually a much older coach. Magnificent procession will take place. We're taking them back to Buckingham Palace. So that will conclude the coronation official events, if you like. But then later in the weekend, on Sunday, we've got a coronation concert, which will have some of the world-renowned musical icons.
Katy Perry,
all sorts. And then there's a big volunteering event as well on the Monday. So there's a whole weekend of events. I think the world's attention will be on the UK and the coronation. And for us in the UK, it's a real moment of celebration.
Back to the Queen consort. Right, she will be the queens of the UK. In the report about her crown, with the old crown, that's a new, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's a crown that has been used in coronations before. So I think in the past, sometimes a queen or a consort has had a new crown made for them, but she is using an old one, so it will have historical values, and obviously it's reusing a crown that's already been used. I think that's important because for King Charles, sustainability and environmental protection are really key issues. He's spent his entire life talking about the need for environmental protection and conservation. So having a sustainable service as much as possible and using some of the historical regalia for the service is something he was very keen to do.
Yeah, and how many items about the coronations or about the sequence that reflect King Charles III style?
Well, I think the actual sequence of the coronation that they're following is going to be the same as in the last coronation, so it's a very traditional sequence, but there will be elements that do definitely reflect King Charles. So, for instance, there will be singing in Welsh and English. There'll also be Orthodox Greek music, which is brings back memories of Prince Philip, who was the father of King Charles. And then, as I say, over the course of the weekend, there will be different events, particularly the concert, which is very much about innovation, culture, and then the volunteering event on Monday, which will be very much about promoting community spirit and social assistance.
And at the last coronations of Queen Elizabeth II, about 800 guests were invited, but this coronation invited just 200.
It's 2,000
guests. Why reduce the number of guests? Or
well, these are choices for the individual monarch. I would say that from my perspective, welcoming representatives from nearly 200 different countries, having over 400 international VIPs, including His Majesty the King of Thailand and Queen Sitida. I mean, these are large numbers of VIP guests, and we're absolutely honoured to welcome them.
At the last of the coronations of Queen Elizabeth II, just 3 hours of the ceremony, right? But in the published on this coronation ceremony, just 1 hour and a half, right?
Yeah, I understand it's going to take up to about 2 hours, but as I say, the basic sequence is consistent, but there are choices in terms of how long different elements take. So I wouldn't read too much into this. The ceremony will be quite traditional, but with features that are relevant to King Charles.
And how about your personal experiences between royal family and King Charles when you were young? How do you feel about the royal family in your remember?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd say 2 things. First of all is that, as I mentioned before, Queen Elizabeth was the monarch of the UK for my entire life until last year. So as a child, that is all I ever knew. Queen Elizabeth was our queen. So there was an enormous sense of continuity in the royal family in terms of our head of state being the same for so many years. And what I saw as a child and an adult is, many, many years of dedicated service by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth and the other members of the royal family, including then Prince Charles. They've also, there's obviously a big change last year. So it's very sad that the late Queen died, but it's now we look to the future, and King Charles is our new king. So, as I say, it's sort of changing, just as there is generational change throughout society. But the second thing I would say, in answer to your question about my own personal interaction, I've met, as you'd expect, a number of members of the royal family. I was very honoured a few years ago to have an audience with Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth when I was ambassador to Cambodia, and met her on a couple of other occasions. So that was a huge honour. I also, at one point, accompanied Prince William, who's now Prince of Wales, around China on his first visit to China when I was working there. So we went to Beijing and some other cities in China. So that was a great experience too. And I've met other members of the royal family briefly, including King Charles. So I mean, it's a great honour to do this.
Yeah, in Thailand, we have an old traditions about the king and the queen and the Thai royal family, and Thai people feeling respectful about the king and the queens. And how about British people perspective on these coronations? What is the meaning of the British people?
Well, I think it's fundamentally it's a moment of celebration for the UK, and I think we've had a number of major royal events in the last 12 months. So we had the late Queen's Platinum Jubilee, or 70th anniversary of her accession last June. And then, of course, we had a state funeral for Her late Majesty in September. And these are occasions where generally people across the UK come together in the spirit of the occasion. So in the case of the Platinum Jubilee, this was a major moment of celebration when everybody was paying respect to and celebrating the 70 years of service by her late Queen. And similarly, in September, everyone was brought together in a mourning in a sort of very respectful way, looking back on the 70 years of her reign and then looking forward as well. So these are occasions where the UK people generally come together, and I think the spirit of the coronation events over this weekend will be that. So people will come together in a moment of celebration, and as you've said, people from around the world will pay a close interest in what's going on. And of course, it's a moment of change, but it's also a moment to look positively towards the future.
And do you think this is good or more better that people can approach the royal family?
But in the UK, our royal family are very active. There are a number of high-profile senior members of the royal family who go out and do many events, public events and commitments. So certainly they meet many thousands, if not millions of people.
Yeah. Do you think, in your opinions, King Charles III as a king, how about in your opinions about him?
Well, I think he's in his 70s now. He's spent his whole life devoted to public service. There are issues that he feels very passionately about. So I mentioned before sustainability and conservation. I think these are really sort of important issues for him, and I expect he will try to promote environmental protection and conservation. He's also very keen on the UK's cultural diversity. You know, he is king of the United Kingdom of England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. So you'll see close interests in different parts of the UK. And he's also very keen on youth and sort of promoting social inclusion. So I think these are issues that he's always been very passionate about, and I would expect him to remain passionate about them as king.
Yeah, and so when you talk about the royal family, that you have a very passion in your eyes. Okay, about royal family in social dimensions. A protest, I saw the report, the news report, protests against the British monarchy have been planned around the United Kingdom for Coronation Day. They say Charles is not the king. Do you think how much this challenge affect to royal family and how to handle it?
Well, like I said before, I feel that the primary feeling and sentiment on Saturday will be a feeling of celebration for the people of the UK. But of course, there is a public debate, and not everybody will share the same views about anything, whether it's a monarchy or any other particular issue. So in the UK, people can discuss these things. People can have different views. Those are respected. But as I say, I think the primary sentiment will be one of celebration and national coming together.
And okay, about these questions, people want me to ask about these questions. Prince Harry will attend the coronation, but his wife Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, will remain in the United States with the couple children. Do you think this would affect the image, favor, or stable of royal family?
Honestly, I have no background at all into decision-making process into this. It's a family matter. It's a matter for the royals. So I really don't know the answer to that. So you know, obviously there will be media interest in these questions, but I don't want to speculate about what discussions have taken place.
Yeah. Okay. How about the events in the Coronation Day in Thailand? What is the event?
We have a number of different events actually. So I will be in Chiang Mai in the morning. We have a car procession of vintage cars around the city walls of Chiang Mai. And we also have a coronation celebration taking place at the Consul's Garden in Chiang Mai. So that will be a family event for people to get together and celebrate. And then I will be coming back to Bangkok for an event at the British Club in the afternoon, which will also be a family event for people to get together and celebrate the day. So that's what's happening in Thailand here on Saturday, but then next week, of course, we have a bigger embassy celebration for the coronation, which we're organising as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because of this coronation is the biggest events and special events around the world. I want you to choose the 5 words, 5 vocabulary about legal year or about the coronation days. 5 words.
5 words. Well, number 1 has to be celebration.
Yeah.
Number 2 has to be optimism. Number 3, thinking back to the King's values I described, I would say inclusion. Number 4 would be sustainability, thinking about the environment. And number 5 would be youth.
Okay, thank you very much. We are grateful for your kindness and impressive information about the King Charles III. It's very exclusive. His Excellency Mr. Mark, greeting the British Ambassador to Thailand. thank you ขอบคุณมากนะคะ
ขอบคุณมากครับ
ขอบคุณมากนะคะก็เชื่อเหลือเกินนะคะว่าคุณผู้ชมทุกท่านที่ได้ฟังการสัมภาษณ์พิเศษในครั้งนี้เนี่ยจะได้ทราบถึงนะคะความเป็นมาของพระราชพิธีบรมราชาภิเษกในครั้งนี้นะคะแล้วก็พระเจ้าชาร์ลส์ที่3เนี่ยท่านก็สนใจในเรื่องของ sustainability คือเรื่องของความยั่งยืนนะคะแล้วก็สิ่งแวดล้อมด้วยนะคะในครั้งนี้ยังไงก็ฝากคุณผู้ชมทุกท่านนะคะที่ดูผ่านทาง Live Facebook Fanpage กรุงเทพธุรกิจอย่าลืมกดไลค์กด Subscribe ส่วนใครที่อยากจะชมการถ่ายทอดสดนะคะพระราชพิธีบรมราชาภิเษกพระเจ้าชาร์ลส์ที่3วันพรุ่งนี้ค่ะตอน 5 โมงถึง 6 โมงเย็นนะคะที่ช่อง Nation TV กด 22 สวัสดีค่ะ